next speaker is Geneiève Blanchett.
My name is Geneiève. I'm the lab manager at the Snail Extinction Prevention Program, and I work at the Snail Lab. So today I'm here to give you just a fun presentation, tell you more about what we do at the Snail Lab, and some lessons that we've learned in the past 7 years, and hopefully this can be applicable to some of you guys too. So Riley touched on that, but there's over 750 species of native Hawaiian snails in Hawaii, and about half of those are now extinct because of these predators, habitat loss, and climate change. So the history of kahuli conservation in Hawaii is really a story of partnerships. This is an old slide. It should also include UHilo. But I just want to stress that STEP is here now because of all the work of these partners and the people that came before us. So back in the 80s, we have Dr. Hatfield at UH Manoa that started rearing our tree snails in captivity, tried to learn how and what they eat, how they live and what they eat. And we took a lot of that in our program. We have the Bishop Museum. They've been raising snails for, they've been raising snails also for a long time, but studying snails for over a century now. So they have a lot of knowledge. On Oahu, we work a lot with the Army Natural Program as well. So just want to acknowledge all these people. Now, the history of SEP, it started in 2012. DLNR created this program. It was modeled after the Plant Extinction Prevention Program, and our captive rearing lab opened in 2016. So that's why I'm only reflecting on the past 7 years, now we have over 40 species in our lab. At first, the goals of SEPs were to prevent imminent extinction, prevent local extirpation of specific populations in the forest, and integrate captive rearing with the management of the wild populations. However, in the past 5 years, we've had to bring in many species back in captivity because they were just going extinct super fast. They would go survey population in the mountain, they could find hundreds, and then they would go back the next year and they could only find like one individual. So it's going really fast. It's happening super fast. So we have around 40 species in our lab, 70 different populations from 9 main Hawaiian islands. Right now we just reached the 9,000 snails in our lab, and most of them are extinct in the wild right now. So this is what our lab looks like. We house our snails in these cages. Riley talked about it. They're hooked up to a misting system that mimics the clouds and the misting in the mountains. And these cages are housed in these giant rearing chambers. They control humidity, temperature, and lighting. And it takes us around 200 man-hour every week to search for all our kahuli. We count every single one of them. We count them, we look for them, we feed them, and it takes us 2 weeks to clean and feed everyone, and then it's like Groundhog Day, we just start over again. So the level of monitoring we need is pretty high. My boss likes to say that in one chamber, it's like having 40 pandas, and even there, like some of our species are rarer than pandas. So you have to be very vigilant. So we have to check our misting system and the hookup of the nozzle every night before we leave, because our snails like to party at night. They are nocturnal, and if they find an opening at night, they'll just snail their way out of the cage. So we have to double check ourselves every night. When I started this job, I would have stress nightmares at night. And then we found out over the years that our ground snails, it's not super clear here, but these guys live in a leaf litter. they're super sensitive to moisture, and we found really early on that even though they're housed in these rearing chamber, you gotta check their moisture twice a week. So these are the things we do. And then we learned over the years that we have to look out for red flags, and we found really quickly that you need to create a culture of self-reflection within your team that allows people to speak up when they see something odd or weird. And I think that's a lesson that can be applicable to everyone. Just create an environment where people are comfortable and willing to speak up. And then manager, I don't have all the answers. I don't have eyes everywhere. So I really rely on my team to speak up. And we've saved equipment from failure from that. We've saved colonies. Riley talked a little bit about pathogens. So once in a while we have pathogen coming in. And we need to be able to detect when we have weird behavior or higher mortality in our cages. So yeah, create a good environment for your team. You'll be able to save species. One of the biggest lessons we've learned in the 7 years in the lab is that redundancy is really key, also applicable to many other fields. Don't put your eggs all in the same basket. Spread your species. Don't put all your breeders in the same cage. Don't put all your species in one chamber. Don't feed them the same diet all at once. So that's why we have a 2-week cycle. We have multiple chamber. You have to spread. If possible, work with partners to spread your plants, your seed, your snails. So we're working with the Bishop Museum and the Honolulu Zoo. This summer we're going to be able to offload some of our rare species to them so that they're not in this one trailer lab on top of a mountain, which can be pretty stressful. Yeah, and also we've learned that you need disaster plans. If you're a stressed biologist, an anxious person by nature, create a disaster plan. When you think of all the worst case scenarios, it might happen, okay? We've been running this lab for 7 years. We've had our water cut off, power line, trees fell on power line, fire threat on our trailer. Name it. It will happen eventually over time, and you need to have a list of priority. What would you do if something, a stochastic event would be to happen? So yeah, have your disaster plan ready. And now just to finish, let's talk about some success stories. These are the fun things that keep us running. So over the past 7 years, we've been able to release 10,000 snails with our partners throughout the different islands in predator-proof fence unit mostly, and on some spot on Maui, just in the forest where they're thriving already. So this is super positive and it keeps us running. Because we're working so closely with the snails, we're also able to learn about their behavior and do a lot of research projects. And I think at the beginning of the day we were talking about kilo, where it's not just observing and feeding the snails, it's also trying to understand why they do the things they do. So we did a lot of diets. We also did some seal studies. So we found out that some snails that live in drier area, they stick harder. So you can learn a lot from that. And then we're able to describe some life history traits that has never been recorded before. So this is Cucantia hystricella. Up until last year, its entire life cycle had never been described. We knew how to rear them, but we didn't know when they were reaching maturity, when they stopped growing. So we're able to do these cool things. And then finally, the best part, I think, the second best part. The best part is when you're able to release these guys, but the second best part is when we're able to have real population growth. So on this side, we have Acatinella fulgens. They descend from 6 genetic founders. So super rare. We just reached the 100 individuals, so they're slowly crawling out of the woods. These guys are Acatinella lila. They come from less than 10 genetic founders. We have 2,000 now. So we're gonna be able to give some to the Bishop Museum and the Honolulu Zoo to like spread them around. This population here is really special. They've been in captivity for over 30 years. They used to be at UH, and then we're gonna be able to release them in a predator-proof fence unit probably this fall. So super exciting. We have about 1,000 now, and they've been in captivity for over 30 years. So this is what we do at SET. If you want to come talk story, ask question, feel free to do so. Thank you.
So we do have time for question. Anybody?
Yes.
Are they pretty tolerant to handling? You said you have to count them every time that you clean the cages. Do you ever have mortality issues with handling them?
No. We teach everyone how to handle them properly and safely. We have a protocol, and done the right way, they can be handled a lot. Yeah. Our colorful tree snail live up to 20 years. And so the Fusco bases I was talking at the end, some of these adults have been in captivity for their whole life, and they do fine. Yeah. But like anything, if you pull out a plant too hard, it will break. So yeah, same with snails. Just have to be gentle. Yeah.
Anybody else? One more? Pat.
Wow, I'm really impressed you guys have released 10,000
Yeah.
into predator-proof. That's really impressive. Great job. What species are those? Like, how many different species does that represent?
I would say maybe 10 different species. So we like that number because it's like a big number. But the bulk of that number is of them are ground-dwelling snails. But they're very important because they are decomposers and they recycle the calcium in the ecosystem. But they breed a little faster than our colorful tree snails.
So it's not the Acatinellas, which ones are those?
The ground snails are amastrids. Yeah.
Well, those are super rare too, yeah.
They are, yeah. A lot of them are extinct, the one we're rearing, yeah.
Okay, just to follow up on Pat's question. Of the snails you've released, are a lot of them the ones that have been in the lab for a long time? Or are they ones that you brought in and were especially successful?
So some of them had been in the lab for a long time. Right now, it really depends on what forest reserve area is ready to receive snails, or what fence unit is ready to receive the snails. That dictates which snails we're able to release. Yeah.
So that field part of it is like super, super important. So
Yeah, our field crew wasn't able to join us today, but that's a whole other team that works every day of the week in the forest trying to get those predators out. And yeah.
And it's hard work.
Oh, very hard work. Yeah, very. Yeah.
Thank you.